Today I'm here to share with you some profound insights that have the power to transform your life and relationships. The title of my talk is The Courage to Let Go, Recognizing Toxic Relationships and Reclaiming Your Life. Imagine for a moment that you're tending a garden. You plant seeds, nurture them with water and sunlight, and watch as they grow into beautiful flowers. But what happens when weeds start to appear? If left unchecked, these weeds can choke out the healthy plants, stealing nutrients and stunting growth. In much the same way, toxic relationships in our lives can drain our energy, erode our self-esteem, and prevent us from flourishing. Today, we're going to explore 9 critical signs that indicate it might be time to cut ties with someone, even if that person is a close friend or family member. This isn't about being callous or giving up on people easily. It's about recognizing when a relationship has become detrimental to your well-being and having the courage to prioritize your own growth and happiness. Before we dive in, I want to share a quote from the great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This wisdom will be our guiding light as we navigate the challenging terrain of toxic relationships. Let's begin with our first sign. 1. The financial manipulator. Have you ever encountered someone whose first words are always about not having money? At first glance, it's easy to sympathize, especially if they seem to be struggling. However, upon closer inspection, you might notice a puzzling pattern. Despite their claims of financial hardship, these individuals often lead comfortable lives, indulging in personal pleasures, travels, or hobbies. Research conducted by the National Endowment for Financial Education found that 75% of adults have experienced financial deception in a relationship. This deception isn't always about grand schemes. Sometimes it's as subtle as consistently avoiding financial responsibilities or obligations when it comes to shared experiences or commitments. I remember a friend I had years ago. Every time we planned something together, he'd have an excuse about lacking funds. Yet I couldn't help but notice he never hesitated to spend on personal luxuries or to impress others. The turning point came when he backed out of a trip we had planned together, citing financial constraints. It was then that I realized the issue wasn't his financial capacity, but rather the value he placed on our friendship. This behavior isn't about poverty, it's about calculated manipulation. In healthy relationships, there's a balance of give and take. When someone consistently uses money as an excuse to avoid responsibilities or shared experiences, it's a red flag that the relationship may be unbalanced and potentially draining for you. A study published in the Journal of Financial Therapy found that financial transparency and shared values about money are crucial factors in relationship satisfaction. If you find yourself always being the one to foot the bill or make financial sacrifices while the other person enjoys their indulgences, it's time to reassess the dynamics of your relationship. 2. The chronic arguer. Moving on to our second sign, let's talk about people who seem to thrive on conflict. Have you ever felt like you're walking on eggshells around someone, knowing that any minor disagreement could escalate into a full-blown argument? A study published in the Journal of Family Psychology found that high levels of conflict in relationships are associated with decreased relationship satisfaction and increased stress levels. Chronic arguers don't just exaggerate minor issues. They often drag you into their conflicts, forcing you to take sides. This behavior doesn't just exhaust their own life, it drains the peace from your relationship as well. I had a friend like this once. On the surface, he seemed confident, but any difference of opinion would immediately escalate into an intense dispute. During an informal gathering with friends, we were discussing plans for a trip when a minor disagreement arose. He pulled me into the argument, insisting that I support him in front of everyone. That moment changed our friendship forever. I realized that if someone frequently provokes conflicts and pressures others to take sides, it becomes impossible to maintain a balanced and healthy relationship with them. Arguing isn't a sign of intelligence or strength. On the contrary, it often reflects a lack of emotional control and inner insecurity. People who constantly argue not only damage their relationships, but also miss opportunities for personal growth. A wise person doesn't need to win every debate. Instead, they prioritize peace, understanding, and calm problem solving. If you find yourself caught in a pattern of frequent arguments or often dragged into unnecessary conflicts, take a moment to pause and reflect. Cultivating calmness not only protects your relationships, it also safeguards your inner peace. 3. The dismissive listener. Our third sign focuses on those who take others' concerns lightly. In life's journey, each of us carries unique burdens. Our worries, joys, and sorrows have a relative value that can't be measured by a common scale. Yet one of life's greatest disappointments occurs when we share our struggles, only to encounter people who amplify their own burdens while diminishing or dismissing ours. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that perceived partner responsiveness, the extent to which individuals believe their partner understands, validates, and cares for them, is a key predictor of relationship satisfaction and personal well-being. I recall a time when I confided in a longtime friend about the challenges of juggling work and caring for my aging parents. Instead of offering empathy, he minimized my concerns and immediately shifted the conversation to his own work pressures, as if my struggles didn't exist. This experience left me not just disappointed but deeply hurt. Respect isn't found in grand gestures, it often lies in the simplest actions. It resides in expressing sincere gratitude, saying thank you when someone helps you, or genuinely apologizing when you've caused harm. These words, when spoken from the heart, aren't mere courtesies but the foundation of meaningful relationships. The belief imposer. Our fourth sign deals with those who constantly try to impose their religious or political beliefs on others. The true beauty of human relationships lies in our differences. The real meaning of connection resides not in imposing ourselves on others, but in recognizing and appreciating differences, building shared values from them. A study by the Pew Research Center found that 64% of Americans say that sharing religious beliefs with one's spouse is very important for a successful marriage. However, the same study also found that 69% of married people say their spouse shares their religious beliefs. This suggests that while shared beliefs are important, they often develop naturally in successful relationships rather than through imposition. I remember an old friend who was once very close to me. Every time we talked, he tried to convince me that his way of life was the only correct one, that I needed to change my beliefs. Initially, I would debate with him, trying to defend my viewpoint, but after each conversation, I felt emotionally drained. Over time, I realized these arguments led to no understanding. They only drove us further apart. Wise people never argue just to prove they're right. Instead, they listen, empathize, and know when to step back. The true victory in a relationship isn't about defeating the other person. It's about overcoming one's own ego to find harmony and understanding together. The anxiety-inducing friend. Our fifth sign is subtle but crucial. If you feel anxious when meeting a friend, it might be time to reevaluate that friendship. Have you ever realized that people who once brought you so much joy and laughter now seem a bit distant? This doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong or they've changed for the worse. It simply means time has taken you on different paths. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that friendships often change or end due to a lack of similarity, geographical distance, or conflicting expectations. Life constantly evolves, and so do we. Our interests, values, and perspectives naturally change over time, and sometimes relationships that seemed perfectly in sync start to fall out of tune. I remember a story told by one of my colleagues. He spoke about a childhood friend with whom he had shared countless unforgettable moments, going to the movies, playing sports, dreaming about their future together. But life eventually took them in opposite directions. One moved to a new city, building a career and family, while the other stayed in their hometown, leading a simpler life. The rare times they reconnected weren't filled with the same joy and ease as before. There was an underlying tension, a sense of having grown apart. This doesn't mean the friendship was a failure or that either person did something wrong. It simply illustrates how life's natural progression can change the dynamics of our relationships. It's okay to acknowledge when a friendship no longer serves you or brings you joy. Letting go isn't a failure. It's a natural part of personal growth and evolution. 6. The energy vampire. Our sixth sign focuses on individuals who consistently drain your energy. These are the people who leave you feeling exhausted, depleted, and emotionally spent after every interaction. Psychologists often refer to such individuals as energy vampires. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that interactions with negative individuals can lead to increased stress levels and decreased well-being. This effect is particularly pronounced in close relationships, where the emotional investment is higher. I once had a colleague who epitomized this behavior. Every conversation with her was a litany of complaints, criticisms, and negative outlooks. Initially, I tried to be supportive, offering encouragement and positive perspectives. However, over time, I noticed a pattern. No matter how much positivity I injected into our interactions, I always left feeling drained and somewhat depressed. It's crucial to recognize that while we all have our down moments and need support from time to time, a consistently negative presence in your life can have serious repercussions on your mental health and overall well-being. Dr. Judith Orloff, a psychiatrist and author, suggests that prolonged exposure to energy vampires can lead to symptoms such as fatigue, depression, and even physical ailments. She emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries and limiting exposure to such individuals for the sake of one's own emotional and physical health. Remember, you are not responsible for fixing or changing anyone. Your primary responsibility is to your own well-being. If someone in your life consistently leaves you feeling drained, it may be time to reassess the role they play in your life and consider creating some healthy distance. 7. The chronic critic. Our seventh sign deals with those who are constantly critical, never seeming to find satisfaction or positivity in anything or anyone. While constructive criticism can be valuable for growth, chronic criticism is toxic and can severely impact self-esteem and confidence. A study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that persistent criticism in relationships is one of the strongest predictors of divorce and relationship dissatisfaction. This doesn't just apply to romantic relationships, it extends to friendships and family relationships as well. I recall a family member who always had something negative to say about every decision I made or achievement I celebrated. Whether it was a new job, a personal accomplishment, or even a simple choice like a new hairstyle, their response was always tinged with disapproval or skepticism. Over time, I noticed I was hesitant to share any news with them, good or bad, for fear of their reaction. Chronic critics often mask their behavior as just being honest or helping you improve. However, there's a significant difference between constructive feedback and relentless criticism. The former is specific, actionable, and delivered with care and good intentions. The latter is general, persistent, and often seems more focused on tearing down than building up. Dr. John Gottman, a renowned relationship expert, identifies criticism as one of the 4 horsemen that predict the end of a relationship. He emphasizes the importance of replacing criticism with gentle startups and specific complaints rather than attacking the person's character. If you find yourself constantly on the receiving end of criticism from someone in your life, it's important to address this behavior. Open communication about how their words impact you can be a good starting point. However, if the behavior persists despite your efforts, it may be necessary to create boundaries or distance to protect your self-esteem and mental well-being. 8. The boundary violator. Our 8th sign focuses on those who consistently disrespect or ignore your personal boundaries. Boundaries are essential in all relationships, serving as invisible lines that define where you end and another person begins. They encompass your physical, emotional, and mental limits. A study published in the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy found that clear and respected boundaries are crucial for maintaining healthy relationships and individual well-being. However, some people seem to have a knack for pushing, ignoring, or outright violating these boundaries. I once had a friend who would show up at my house unannounced, often at inconvenient times. Despite my polite request for her to call before visiting, she continued this behavior, claiming that real friends don't need invitations. This disregard for my clearly stated boundary left me feeling disrespected and anxious in my own home. Boundary violations can take many forms. Emotional, pressuring you to share feelings or information you're not comfortable disclosing. Physical, unwanted touching or invading personal space. Time and energy, demanding your attention or help at unreasonable times or frequencies. Material, borrowing or using your possessions without permission. Digital, invading your online privacy, or expecting immediate responses to messages. Dr. Henry Cloud, a clinical psychologist and author of Boundaries, When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life, emphasizes that setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is not selfish, but rather an essential aspect of self-care and healthy relationships. If someone in your life consistently violates your boundaries, it's crucial to address this behavior directly. Clearly communicate your limits and the consequences of disrespecting them. If the person continues to ignore your boundaries despite clear communication, it may be necessary to reevaluate the relationship and consider creating distance for your own well-being. 9. The untrustworthy individual. Our final and perhaps most critical sign is untrustworthiness. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, be it personal or professional. When trust is broken, it can be incredibly challenging to rebuild. A study published in the Journal of Trust Research found that trust is a key predictor of relationship satisfaction and longevity. However, trust can be eroded in many ways, through dishonesty, betrayal, inconsistency, or a pattern of broken promises. I once had a close friend who I discovered had been spreading rumors about me behind my back. When confronted, she denied it, despite clear evidence. This betrayal not only ended our friendship, but also made me question all our past interactions. The emotional toll of realizing someone you trusted was untrustworthy can be devastating. Untrustworthy behavior can manifest in various ways, lying or deceiving even about small things, consistently breaking promises or commitments, sharing confidential information, being two-faced or talking negatively about you to others, manipulating situations for personal gain. Dr. Brené Brown, a research professor known for her work on vulnerability and trust, describes trust as choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. When someone repeatedly proves untrustworthy, they're essentially saying that they don't value or respect what you've made vulnerable to them. If you find yourself constantly doubting someone's words or actions, or feeling the need to verify everything they say, it's a clear sign that trust has been eroded. While it's possible to rebuild trust in some cases, it requires genuine effort and changed behavior from the untrustworthy party. If this effort isn't forthcoming, it may be necessary to create distance to protect yourself from further hurt and betrayal.